Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
It is a big time transaction show for us today on this Monday. Just about 31 hours before the trade deadline.
That's it. 31 hours. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, correct?
No one goes by Pacific, though. It's 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, but it's 3 p.m. Pacific on the West Coast for sure.
Yeah. No one cares.
No, everybody does. I mean, we've got the third largest economy in the world out here. So people care for sure.
Yeah. We're getting close. We're getting close to the MLB trade deadline, which is 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. A litany of trades have already been completed. It is we had a debate before the show went on the air about which one's the best one so far. Which one's the best one so far? It's debatable. But it's only debatable for a reason that Jay illustrated quite properly, in that no team has added an ace, has added an MVP caliber type player. Some good players have been on the move, but there's been no slam dunk blockbuster that has been put forth just yet. And I don't even know, it's a whole separate tangent. I don't even know that we're going to see one of those.
No, that's the idea. Is I think that's why it's fairly easy to assess it in that fashion, because is Tarik Skubal available? No.
I don't know that he's not available.
Well, put it like my tongue-in-cheek Mason Miller assessment, right? Which was start with a third of your lineup, and then we'll talk prospects too, and then we can talk about you getting Mason Miller. That's the same conversation with Tarik Skubal. Like give me a third of your starting big league lineup right now, probably a couple of your best arm prospects, and now we can talk about you getting Tarik Skubal. Still not yours, but now we might be able to have that conversation. So those guys are not moving anywhere. Those are guys that are going to be hugely impactful for their own organizations right now moving forward. So I think when you look around, it's debatable, but as Jay did say, it's really about what you need specifically and what you're requiring. I think what's available out there, we can all talk about what you think is available, what you want to be available, what really truly is available. Those are very different conversations.
You know what's weird is there has been a lot of noise recently around the Blake Snell market. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if Blake Snell moved to, let's say, the Orioles, for example, like that's a big move, but everyone is over here focused on Garrett Crochet and Tarik Skubal, that if Blake Snell were to move, it's almost like a tier below. But the dude is the reigning Cy Young Award winner. And our young Joseph here put out a TikTok the other day about how this dude just notoriously sucks in April and May, and then he just turns it on in the second half and is like the best pitcher in baseball in the second half, and he does it routinely. So for whatever start Blake Snell has gotten off to, that is expected at this point from him. So if you're going out there and trading for a Blake Snell, you can kind of be somewhat confident in knowing that you're acquiring a Cy Young caliber left-handed ace type pitcher that just punched out 15 the other day.
Yeah, well, and it's all about what the future looks like for you and your organization, again, with the conversation around Blake Snell. Because if Blake Snell signs up for your team and then proceeds to shit the bed, well, guess what Blake Snell is going to do? He will be opting in for that $30 million payday, and you'll see him next year.
I wonder if there's language that kind of like changes things if he gets dealt, though.
What do you mean? If he gets traded? No, he's still, you're moving that contract, and that contract.
I know, but some guys have like in their contract where it's like, if I get traded, then that option just automatically vests. I'm going to look into it right now. I don't know that that's the case with Blake Snell, but there are guys that have contracts like that.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Just based off the reporting from Pearson and Olney that I was reading, they didn't mention anything about them.
So he signed for $15 million this year, $30 million player option for next year. If the option is exercised, $15 million is deferred and paid until 2027.
No interest on that.
Snell is to donate $160,000 to club charity in 2024 and $150,000 in 2025 if the option is exercised. That's all the language says.
Well, yeah, so it's up to him.
And to Dallas's point, if he pitches poorly, he opts into $30 million. If he pitches well, he opts out. So that's the other complicating factor for an acquiring team and the Giants in trying to land on a specific value for this guy is.
Does he opt out though? Is that a certainty that if he pitches well in August and September, that's enough to risk not making a guaranteed $30 million next year?
It would absolutely have to be, and here's why. Because of what you just started to talk about, and what I was going to follow up and finish is what performance are you getting from Blake Snell? I don't care what anybody has to say about what they think about Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell. When you don't have a spring training, you get the starts to their shitty seasons that they've had every time. Just about every fucking time.
Joe, what are some of the numbers from that video? Because, I mean, like, I know that people want to point to the spring training and all that, but this is kind of just what Blake Snell has done in his career. Do you remember offhand any of the numbers from, like, his starts to
Well,
his
I just tell you his career ERA in the first half is 3.95, and his career ERA in the second half is 2.50. So that's a one and a half run difference in ERA.
Yeah, but some of the numbers that you had by month were astronomical. It was like...
Well, you could just look at it. I mean, you could just go to...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take...
his monthly split, yeah.
Obviously, this is Joey's work broadly, but I have the splits up right now. March, April, 4 ERA. May, 4.57. June, 4.44. July, 2.43. August, 2.60. September, October, 2.25.
And as you sit right now, Blake Snell, his last four starts, we are in the month of July, starting to turn the corner into the dog days. And speaking of dog days, who's becoming that fucking dog? Blake Snell, 4 starts, 0.75 ERA, 24 innings, 30 punch-outs, just 7 walks, 1 homer allowed. Blake Snell starting to turn into Blake Snell. Second half, Cy Young, Blake Snell. So yeah, Jared, you're excited about what you might have down the stretch here because of what history tells you about this guy. You also have to be wary because of what history tells you about this guy and what you might be getting in March, April, May, June next year to the tune of $30 million. And if you're not competitive or don't see yourself being competitive next year, that could very well be a hindrance. That could be a hurdle that prevents you from landing a Blake Snell right now.
Potentially. Yes.
But if you're in it to win this motherfucker right now, give me the dog.
That's why Blake Snell being linked to the Orioles is enticing for me, because before we came on the air, we were talking about the best deal to be made so far. And I kind of sneaky like Zach Eflin to the Orioles, because then if you go out and complete a Blake Snell trade, that bumps Zach Eflin down. And now you're kind of dealing with some dogs at the top of your rotation there. And you have to view the Orioles, I mean, an already scary team in a completely different light, where it's like, man, they were pretty badass before, but now they got some guys that we're just not used to seeing the Orioles have, in a way. Like, we're not used to the veteran pitchers going over there and who have had success. It's usually just like, oh, here's a guy that came up through the Orioles system. They're kind of hoping will be good, and maybe he's not. I think if Blake Snell ends up in Baltimore, that's kind of what's going on in Philly. I mean, the Dave Dombrowski is saying, fuck it, let's go. Like, that's why I love Dombrowski, is because when he smells blood in the water, I think Dombrowski's looking around at the rest of the league and he's seeing the top dogs in the American League not as scary right now. The Yankees have been scuffling. The Orioles have been scuffling. Looking at the National League, the Dodgers have a ton of injuries. The Braves, without Ronald Acuna Jr., are not having a typical Braves year. I mean, Ozuna's the only dude that's really hitting right now in their lineup. Like, they have knocked on the door for the last 3 years. This is the time to make that deal where you're giving up 4 really good prospects to make sure you have every piece of the puzzle so that come October, you're ready to roll and steamroll these guys. Like that 2018 team that Dombrowski built in Boston, they butt fucked everybody. They lost 1 game per round. That was it. So I think that's kind of what Dombrowski's going for now in Philly.
Well, I mean, that's a route that he can go, but that's why for the Orioles, you have to wonder, are they finally going to get a deal offered to them that allows them to flex some of their resource muscle? Because that's why you think about the Orioles, is because they can be potentially dealing from a place of strength. But does that mean that if you are that team that has a Blake Snell type and the Orioles might be interested, do you set your sights high? Right? Is it a Jackson Holiday?
No.
And for Blake Snell? Fuck off.
Fuck off. Who else do you want? I mean, are you talking about some of the like a Kierstad that we've seen?
The Giants must be looking
about,
at it as we don't want to pay this guy $30 million next year. Can you help us out? Versus like, hey, we have something that can really help you for the last.
So the Orioles might be thinking the same thing when they say like, I don't know if Holiday, like you're going to have to come correct, and if it's not Holiday, well, buddy, we feel like we're pretty good with Holiday and what we've got coming in the future. Don't know if that's worth $30 million right now.
I've gotten to a point with the Orioles specifically where I'm not sure there's anybody really truly on the market that's worth their good stuff. And like I'm just like I know I've been right there saying like I'd love to see the Orioles land like that co-ace with Corbin Burns. I know for a while like Skubal was the connection there, and like I think the Eflin thing has some merit. Like I'm a little bit concerned about some underlying stuff with his curveball, but like he improves their rotation on paper. But I just don't know that I'm parting with any big name prospect or young player in the Orioles system to go out and get any of the people that are being reported as genuinely available. And like, you know, we just pointed out all the potential issues with a Blake Snell transaction and how he's a wart and all that sort of stuff, but like, or has warts, contract and otherwise. But like, even the Garrett Crochet stuff is complicated. It's not a straightforward, we're going out and getting the best left-handed starter that's available sub Skubal. It's okay. This guy has I've been waiting for somebody to do this, but like to his credit, I think, but he has come out and said he wants a contract extension to pitch in the postseason. So any team that's acquiring him is essentially going to need to negotiate some sort of extension with him to make that transaction worthwhile. Otherwise, he's apparently not going to pitch in the postseason. Secondarily, he's made 4 starts in July and has pitched a total of 13 innings. He is already set to, and I know they're doing that intentionally to some degree, but he's already set to blow by his career innings pitch, which of course is why he wants the contract extension. Yeah, he already has. But like, so like, even if you're like, oh, well, just pay this player on the Orioles farm system to go out and get Crochet. It's like, okay, but like, it's not that straightforward. And so like that for me just lands me in a place where like it may be Eflin type of players that some of these teams end up acquiring. And I do think a lot of these teams have made themselves better with some of these transactions. I don't think there's like an appallingly bad move on the board from a buying side.
That's just why I look at the Orioles as the team who, I think everybody starts to go to them because they can be dealing from such a depth in their resource pool, but their resources are good enough to where what's available is not going to get them to move. That's the whole point. Is you might think that these guys are available, but what they have and what they're willing to part ways with to get just what's available doesn't make sense to them. In my opinion, wouldn't make sense to them. That's why it's straight out of the gate. Hey, you got to give us Holiday, and they're going, but not even close. No. So what's your next question? No. And then there isn't one. There isn't a follow up.
No, and the Rays right now are putting on an absolute masterclass on how to sell at the trade deadline. Like they've gotten a premium for just about every player that they've moved. And they're like still not even really out of it. Like they're not doing like a buy sell type deal. They are selling, and they are still 3 games out of a wild card spot right now.
Something like that. I mean, you're talking about the Paredes move. The Paredes move. I mean, the Paredes from Morel. Like, does it seem like a lateral move to an extent? Like, I
mean, right now, one of those players is good and one of them sucks. Right.
Yes.
So, like, we do need to establish that for sure.
Yeah. But like, where does this move the needle? If the needle is moving, where does this move the needle?
I think it's a complete package. Like they've traded Arozarena, Paredes, Eflin, Savale. Everyone forgets about that one. Jason Adam. Like they not only they've won 9 of their last 14 games. Like they're winning.
Jason Adam to the Padres was going to be like my sneaky. Like I think that's going to
breaking
be
ball Jesus,
an impactful move that isn't on a ton of people's radar right now, but when you talk about him sliding into that bullpen and what that can do, because you got some fucking animals in that bullpen down there, that when you add another dude to the mix and you have just that much more pressure taken off. I mean, that is a step in the right direction because of who's available in the rotations that we're talking about right now. For you to land that dude, and you need to be able to land a high leverage reliever, and you got a guy like that, that's a big deal for the Padres.
All right, think about the answer to this question. The best and your favorite or the best move that's been made so far. The MLB season is in full swing, and Underdog Fantasy wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats, strikeouts, total bases, home runs, and so much more. Make entries of all baseball or mix and match across your other favorite sports. You can win up to 100 times your money, and it's a ton of fun. Jay, hey, I feel like you're someone that is like closely paying attention to Olympic basketball. Are you doing that?
Oh, yes, I am. I very much enjoyed that game yesterday.
I can't say that I care, but who is like the heavy favorite to win the gold medal in men's basketball?
We are the United States.
U.S.
Is there even like a close second or no?
I haven't looked at the overall odds recently, but they just dispatched Serbia, who has the best player, who has arguably the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, and it was
they beat him by 22.
I was going to say, I don't remember the exact final, but it was about a 20-point difference.
Yeah, they torched him.
And it was not particularly close for the entire stretch of the game. So
they didn't even
United
need Jason
States
Tatum.
Didn't even play the reigning champ. Played his two teammates, though. Drew and Derek White got in.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, in White's case, made a huge impact, actually.
Yeah.
So...
Shout out to Jake, teammates of his.
That's right. Jake didn't get in, but that's like the Tatum thing is overshadowing that. I feel like, because it's like, well, Tatum didn't get in, but neither did Jake.
Well, Jake had to do the live stream last night. Otherwise he would have.
Good point.
He would have. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
There. But yeah, I think Underdog had a really cool promo. I think it was like, it was higher than half a point for LeBron James in this game.
That's a good one. He cleared that by, I believe, about 20 points.
So you could have just stacked that up with some baseball action. Watch a little Olympic men's basketball action.
Nobody has better promos.
That is a fact. Make sure you sign up with the promo code Jared. That's Jared to get up to $250 in bonus cash and a special pick on Underdog. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Jared. All right, I'm going to kick it back to you guys. The question is, what is the best or your favorite move that has been made so far? I'm going to start with young Joseph. What stands out to you, my friend?
My personal favorite right now is the Orioles getting Sir Anthony Domingues. Because if you watch, that guy's nasty as shit. And I guess he's a little wild. He's not very consistent. But to give up Austin Hayes, who I've been watching a lot of Orioles games. When does Austin Hayes ever come up? Like, that's the guy who's like a league average hitter and doesn't really play a lot. And I think Sir Anthony Domingues in a playoff series has like insane upside because he is like somewhat unhittable while also being very hittable because he walks a bunch of people. But if he just doesn't walk people, you might have like one of the best relievers in baseball for the playoffs. And all you had to give up is Austin Hayes, who you weren't even really using anyway. So I think it's just the upside for the Orioles in that trade is massive.
Justin Havens?
I'm gonna interpret it as favorite, your question. And my favorite probably by far is Isaac Paredes in the deal for Christopher Morel. And it's not because I think one team like fleeced the other. I just think it's fascinating from, of course, being me, a statistical and like approach perspective. If you look at the we all know Christopher Morel's like traditional batting line still stinks, and that he's one of the most streaky players in the league. Paredes, for that matter, is also extremely streaky. But if you look at things like barrel rate or bat speed, sweet spot, you have like an incredible contrast between these two guys where like Christopher Morel's bat speed is in the 97th percentile. And I know we're all still figuring out the bat speed stat, but 97th percentile in bat speed, Paredes is 8th. What's not happening is that Christopher Morel ranks 2nd in sweet spot rate. So he's an 11th in squared up percentage. So there's something about the path that his bat is taking, that while it's getting through the zone very quickly, it's not making contact at the point that you want to make contact at a significant amount of time. And Paredes has been much more traditionally productive, but hits the ball not nearly with the authority that Morel does when he actually makes contact. So, it's a classic case of, yes, the Cubs are getting the better player on paper and on a guy who's still young. Like, I think people think Paredes is old. He's quite young. They're basically functionally the same type of player in terms of age. But as soon as I heard that Morel was going to the Rays, I was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to get an opportunity to learn whether Christopher Morel can unlock this potential, because he's going to a team that now everybody's afraid is going to unlock the potential of Christopher Morel above and beyond the prospect equity that they acquired in addition to him. So, like, I just think it's an interesting type of challenge trade in a way. And secondarily, I think it's interesting because it's not a traditional buy-sell dynamic for either one of these teams. The Cubs, you would think on paper, would be more of a selling team. This isn't a sell trade. This is a guy they're acquiring who's going to be a part of the core over the medium term, you would think, in Paredes. So I'm just fascinated from basically all angles on that trade.
Dallas?
Yeah, well, mine is the Jason Adam acquisition, and it's because of the reasons that I highlighted before. When you're talking about the San Diego Padres and where they're at, what they need to help continue to try to make a push and stay competitive in this race, I think when you look at pitching and what's available, once again, with what the Rays were doing and willing to do and who they were willing to part ways with, feels like the San Diego Padres saw Adams and said, yeah, we like where that guy slots in. We like how he slots into what we have going on. Because what they got is a guy right now rocking a sub-1 whip. He's got 47 punch-outs, or 47 innings, 50 punch-outs to go along with that. He's a guy who keeps the ball in the yard, just 4 homers allowed. And he's also a guy who gets the job done against both sides of the platoon. So this isn't a matter of having one guy who can just get your righties out and you kind of live and die with the results against the lefties. You got both sides of the platoon getting it shoved directly up their ass right now. Lefties hitting 176 against Jason Adam, righties hitting a paltry 153. So you plug him in with Roberto Suarez and Estrada, who just remember was the guy who punched out like the first fucking 1,000 hitters he faced, all strikeout, like 39 2/3, 62 punch outs right now. Suarez 23 saves. So you add another arm to that little group and you're heading in the right direction.
So 2 responses to that, if I may. I was reading the Pearson only column about and they commented about the incredible prices that they were able to extract for relief pitchers. And they cited the Adam deal in particular. And I'm not going to, I trust their judgment on it. But what I do know is that the package included the Padres 2022 first round pick in Dylan Lesko. Yeah. So not like some, I know he's struggled and had some issues, but not some schmuck. Total slapdick for, in low A or something like that, who's got no track record of success or draft pedigree. And he wasn't the only prospect that they got either. Secondarily, to your point about the Padres, no team saw a higher increase in their postseason odds from the time we recorded last week to the time that we're recording right now in baseball than the Padres. They're now up to 63% per Fangraph. So it feels like it's a back and forth thing for them. What side of the 50-50 coin flip are they going to be on at any given time? And this has got to be a high water mark for them over the course of the season.
Well, and I don't know, Jared, if you wanted to get into your pick, I feel like we got an idea of.
Well, I mean, I've said Zach Eflin, and that's how I feel, but I also kind of wanted to shout out the Randy Arozarena trade just because the Mariners had to do something. And we've talked about how it's more than a one-player fix. If you're going to add to that lineup, I mean, they could use an upgrade at quite literally any position, maybe outside of catcher. Cal Raleigh has been holding up his end of the bargain. But every other defensive position on the diamond, you could make an offensive upgrade literally anywhere. And adding Randy Arozarena, I know that the overall season numbers don't look great, but since about mid-June, he's been Randy Arozarena. He's been doing it.
That would be my biggest need met in terms of team acquisition. What did the Seattle Mariners need? somebody who could hit the baseball.
That's it.
That's what they needed. That's what they need. They still need more. But they've got one guy who can hit the baseball a hell of a lot better than anybody else has been hitting the baseball for them. So in terms of need, Randy and the Seattle Mariners, I think, are right near the top of the list in terms of perfect marriages.
I mean, to both of your points, the bar was extremely low for them. You could just kind of toss it and it would hit a player.
Jay, would Morel may be an upgrade.
Oh, dude, I would way rather deal with the Christopher Morel problem than most of what's going on in Seattle. Like at least you're getting something sometime. But jokes aside, like the bar was very low, but how often can you say as a contending team that you literally acquired your best offensive player at the trade deadline? Because that's, even in a down year for Arozarena, that's objectively what he has been relative to all the other players on the Mariners. Like, it's close with him and Raleigh and Julio, but like, you can make a very easy case that Randy Arozarena is instantaneously the best offensive player on the team, particularly with Julio sidelined. So it's, they could use more, but I do admire them going out and getting the guy who could be arguably, you could debate him and Paredes and Jazz and whatever, but one of the signature offensive players moved at the deadline.
Yeah.
Is it?
Go
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm glad you mentioned Jazz because I feel like we've more or less hit on every single notable trade except for that one. The Yankees going out and acquiring Jazz Chisholm from the Marlins. And there was you never know where these reports come from, if they're true or not, especially this time of the year. Everyone's looking for some sort of nugget. But having character questions about Jazz Chisholm, because he got in a little tiff with Miguel Rojas, a veteran. You got this young buck coming in and he plays to his own drum and he's got a lot of personality and flair. And there was some character questions about whether or not they could add this dude to the clubhouse. And it's like any other team, fine. The New York Yankees, who have employed Domingo Germán and fucking Aroldis Chapman over the last 7 years, like, give me a fucking break, dude. Can he play baseball? Did he hurt anybody? No. All right, then like let's go. Let's figure this out. So adding Jazz Chisholm, it wasn't like it was a close game last night, but he made an impact last night. He was playing center field. He was a menace on the base paths. Plays the game hard, and I feel like he's going to play the game harder than he ever has because I think he plays up to his surroundings. He's not used to playing in front of fans. Like the smile on his face last night when he was warming up before an inning started and he threw a baseball to a dude in an Aaron Judge jersey in center field and the guy caught it and he was like, oh my God, someone that's wearing the jersey of the team that I'm playing on is here at the game. That's crazy. So I think he's going to be a sneaky good pickup for the Yankees.
And I think that Aaron Judge, because I mean, look, man, you can watch him from afar. I get to watch him up close. And you just see how guys move around him. You see, and it's like, just to give you a fishing example, Jared, when you're fishing and you got bait in the water and you see the fish start to come around, they're starting to circle. Maybe they're even starting a bit of a frenzy. And then the fish fucking bolt. Gone. They're just gone. You're like, where'd the fucking fish go? Well, you know what's coming? You know what's on its way? A bigger fish. A bigger fish that just turned everybody else into dinner. You just went from having dinner to being dinner. And that's who Aaron Judge is when he walks around. You think you're cool? You think you're an eye guy? You think this is about you? Buddy, we could blast your fucking BP tapes in the Bahamas every fucking day for the rest of your career right here in New York. And ain't nobody going to give a fuck about that because of Aaron Judge. And that presence means you better get your shit together and you better go about this the right way because the captain ain't having that shit. And so now you get to perform. It's almost like Jazz is like, fuck yeah, I get to be the dude I want to be. I don't have to worry about overshadowing anybody because literally and figuratively, I cannot cast a bigger shadow than the one that Aaron Judge is casting here in New York. So now maybe I get to just sort of settle in. I'll have the big guy kind of bump me along here and there and keep me on the rails, and I'll be good to go. I'll get to be who I want to be. Maybe there's that. And I think it would be really cool to see that sort of open something up for a guy like Jazz Chisholm, who has dealt with the attachment of, oh, this guy's got character issues, and a lot of it came from the Miguel Rojas stuff. And I think there was some of that narrative already brewing prior to that. But it would be cool to see if this opened that up for him, what kind of impact that would have, because the Yankees could really, really use some sort of injection of life.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. It paid dividends. I mean, they had that big win on Saturday, which was probably the worst loss of the season for the Red Sox, and then capped it off with a convincing win on Sunday when they hadn't beaten the Red Sox in a series all season to that point. And it looked like the trend was going to continue. It should have continued. I mean, Tyler O'Neill should have caught that ball. I mean, the Yankees got away with one there, but
the one
still
in right
should have
center?
lost the series. Left center.
Left. Okay. I was talking about the double that bounced over.
Yeah. But anyways, it's a piece. And I thought that what you were trying to say when you said, like, you know, there's little fish and then here comes the big fish. I thought that you were trying to imply that a bigger move was on the horizon for the Yankees, to which I was going to agree. Because if you break it down this way, the New York Yankees are only guaranteed 1 year of Juan Soto. Like, could he realistically come back next year? Absolutely. But I think that he's openly talked about wanting to play with Shohei Ohtani. The Dodgers obviously have the money to pay Juan Soto if that's where he really wants to go. He's been linked to the Mets this entire time because Steve Cohen's big pockets. But the Yankees have big pockets too, although Hal Steinbrenner has been crying poor. He's been like, yeah, like this payroll is unsustainable. The payroll that we have now is unsustainable. So you're really going to go out and give $600 million to Juan Soto after saying something like that when you already are paying Judge $40 million and Cole's the highest paid pitcher, and like they've got, and you're still paying Stanton, who returns today, by the way. But if you're the Yankees, you have to look at it as we've got one shot. We have to operate as if we have one shot with Aaron Judge and Juan Soto in the same lineup. It's right now. It's this year. How can we look everyone in the eye and say Jazz Chisholm was the missing piece? You can't do that.
You go get Jack Flaherty. You go get Jack Flaherty. That's what you do. You go help yourself out.
He doesn't want to be a Yankee.
Well, that's great. Well, you're going to shave your fucking beard and you're going to go pitch for the Yankees down the stretch.
Does he have a beard? I don't think he has.
I don't know, but I'm just saying that's part of what comes with the Yankees. Go get Jack Flaherty. But the idea is go make a splash, right? You got to go make a move. But here's the tough part about that is if you feel like that is something, or really that is a big part of how you're going to be able to land a Juan Soto next year, that's a problem. That's a tough spot to be in, because what you're doing is sort of signifying that the collapse that we're experiencing, the lack of competitive push right now that we're experiencing, could signify to Juan Soto that I just don't know that this is the group. I don't know that this is the group. And if we're not getting better right now, and we're not going to make moves right now to get better offensively, and this is what I have to look forward to next year, maybe this isn't where I want to be next year, regardless of how much money they spend, regardless of what they're going to give me. Because they can give that to me, which means adding next year, like I wanted them to do right now, might not be what they're due. And I don't want to be in that spot. So I think they're in a tough spot right now when it comes to trying to court Juan Soto and also give themselves an opportunity to be competitive this year and in the future. It feels like those two things are attached. Like, you got to show Juan that you're willing to make moves to supplement the team he's on right now. But if you do that, you still run a very high risk of not being able to retain Juan Soto, because if you fall short, what makes you think that the moves you've made up until that point are going to be enough for him to go, we're on the right path. This is it.
That being said, I like the Jazz Chisholm trade for the Yankees. I mean, it's kind of a similar situation to the Mariners once you get beyond Soto and Judge that we've talked about, where it's like, you know, the bar is pretty low to be able to upgrade. And I know Chisholm is going to play some center field, but he's really upgrading the production in left field because of the positional shift that occurs. I mean, that's what we're looking at. And I saw Boone suggest that he would like to get him comfortable playing third base as well. And if you look at the Yankees' production in left field and third base, cumulatively, it's a bottom 5 combination in baseball. Like, it's just been absolutely terrible. And Jazz Chisholm has been a league average offensive player. Like, there's a gap between what we all wanted Jazz Chisholm to be and maybe what the makers of MLB The Show wanted Jazz Chisholm to be versus what he is now. But like that doesn't take away from the fact that he's a good player who brings an athletic, dynamic skill set and some speed to a roster that I think could benefit from that and would just benefit from anybody who doesn't suck really at those positions.
They also said they want to move Glaber to third base, and he was like, nope.
Yeah, I think that might have been what prompted. Oh, okay. How about Jazz then? You down
Jay,
to play
think
some
about
third?
this though. This is a tough. That's a tough ask, man.
No doubt. I'm not saying it's easy.
Ask.
Shouldn't be a throwaway comment, but yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I like it's like, oh, we're just gonna see if he can get comfortable at third. Like, hold on, because if we start to see him get run out there regularly at third base, then I think you need to circle back to that, because this is a dude who has never played third base, as far as I know. Is that right? I don't think
talking about Jazz or Glaber.
I'm talking about Jazz.
Oh.
I'm talking about Jazz. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe he's played third base.
No, he's never played third base at the MLB level. He has most of his career games at center or second base.
And so for him to just slide over to the quickest reactionary position on the infield, which requires the greatest arm strength combined with accuracy, and for him to learn this position in the big leagues in a hopeful postseason push, and also separate the lack of or potential. And I don't want to treat it like he hasn't been able to make the adjustment or hasn't been able to learn. No, but I know firsthand it's really difficult to learn a brand new position in the big leagues during a postseason push and separate the hurdles of growth there from what you're trying to achieve offensively as well.
But did you see what number he was wearing?
No.
Did anybody see what number Jazz Chisholm wears?
13, brother. Yep.
13, my man.
Mm-hmm.
So if that doesn't look like third base to you, I'm just be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. Friend of the program, John Heyman, just tweeted, Nestor Cortez is a name that's definitely out there.
Hey,
Wouldn't be shocked if he's moved. Haven't confirmed Tommy Edman is a target for Cortez. But New York Yankees does like him.
So the Yankees are willing to move Nestor?
That's what it sounds like.
I mean, why wouldn't you be willing?
Well, no, but here's the thing.
He's Mr.
Now.
Yankee.
I mean, I understand like they need people to pitch,
right.
But yeah.
Right. So, but we moved Nestor. So like, what does that do for the Juan Soto conversation we were just having? What does that signify to Juan Soto? Like, how do you explain that to him? And what I'm saying, Jay Hay, is if I'm Juan Soto and I look at this and I go, okay, well, so we're moving guys. We're moving guys now. What we're getting back, it doesn't feel like is bolstering us in that sense. So is this the white flag we're waving? What is this?
My assumption in any Nestor Cortez trade would be that they are getting back pieces or a piece that would help them in some capacity in 2024. If that is a straight sell trade, I agree. That would be tough to look at Juan Soto or Judge or whoever and be like, yeah, this is a serious move. I also think Nestor Cortez kind of stinks and probably isn't currently in line to pitch high leverage. Like, he's fine, right? He's fine. But I think if you could send him out and get something that fits with your future and present a little bit more cleanly and maybe a different position, then I think that's something worth exploring. I mean, we all do that in fantasy baseball, right? You say, hey, my trash is available, and you hope somebody views your trash as treasure. And then you start the deal negotiations like your trash is treasure. So maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that would be very, very interesting to me. Tommy Edman to the Dodgers is what the rumor mill's been spitting out. And I feel like that would make a ton of sense, considering they need help all over the field defensively. They're looking for alleviation all over the field defensively. Tommy Edman brings that to the table, no doubt. No fucking doubt. Like, that would be a sneaky pickup. Like, because you haven't heard about Tommy Edman because Tommy Edman's been hurt. Tommy Edman has not been playing baseball games. So for Tommy Edman to get back healthy and find himself in the Dodgers system, find himself on the Dodgers at the fucking A, that would be incredible for Tommy Edman. Incredible. Not to say that the the club he's on right now and making a little noise and making a little push. But that would really, really help shore things up to another level for the Dodgers.
You ever been to the ballpark? I mean, you obviously have Dallas, but have any of you been to the ballpark on deadline day? It's a very unique experience.
Hug
Everyone's
watch.
Tense. Yeah, you got hug watch going on. You see guys coming out. It's like, does he have to piss? Did he pull a hammy? Is he traded? It's a lot of that. Don't want to miss that experience. Download the Game Time app. Get to a ballpark somewhere. Joe, you ever been to the ballpark on deadline day?
No, probably not.
Get your ass to a ballpark. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer that it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The opposite happened for me. When Manny Ramirez sat out until the trade deadline, and then they would put him in the game after the deadline was over. Then he came up, drove in game-winning run. That's Manny being Manny. I believe that was deadline day 2005, which also would have been Jonathan Papelbon's major league debut.
Could you imagine if that was intentional?
What?
Like an organization. Like imagine having that kind of feel, but just that kind of like brashness as well. Where look, you're up by 12 at the break, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're up by a little less because it makes it interesting. But you got like an absolute stud. Maybe there's a rumor about it, and you keep him out, and then you're like, oh, actually now hitting. Like, sorry, gotcha. I know everybody was worried. He's not going anywhere. He's on the shitter. Gotcha.
There still hasn't been like enough behind the scenes on like the Manny Ramirez saga. Like the number of times that he was almost traded but wasn't, and then inevitably was traded after a bunch of hijinks that went on behind the scenes. I know that there's like a book out about Manny, but not like I think it was like an autobiography or an autobiography. It didn't have all the juice, all the dirt in it. I would have loved to have gotten that at some point. Anyways, last minute deals. Save up to 60% off by buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. By the way, Dallas, I'm going to see Metallica on Friday.
Yeah. Kill
Very
them
excited
all.
about that.
Oh, that's going to be fucking outstanding.
Very
Good for
excited.
you.
Pantera's opening up.
That's going to be dope, dude. Where's that at?
Gillette.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
That's
yeah,
the
I used to wear a Metallica Kill 'Em All, the cover of the CD, cover of the album, T-shirt under my jersey at Texas Tech. Like, and you know how you're given like the fucking dry fits and all that, all the cool shit. I didn't wear that. I wore my fucking crusty cut off Kill 'Em All T-shirt.
You're such white trash.
Yeah, you damn right I am.
Yeah.
Damn right.
Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Save even more when you choose a section. You let Game Time choose the seats for you. They've got all-in pricing. When you toggle that feature, it shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry today. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code BID for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the promo code BID for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Can I say one thing before we move on?
Please.
I am one of the underrated things about sports viewing that I'm fascinated by is I can't believe the number of people who don't go to the bathroom during the middle of a game, like athletes. Like I just feel like you should, one dude leaving in the starting lineup to go take an emergency poop per game. Like, isn't that surprising?
No. That's all part of your pregame. That's all part of your pregame.
Pretty disciplined, man. So you just like, you train your body to not have to go to the bathroom for that period of time.
Yeah.
Wow.
No. It's you train your body to go to the bathroom
Prior.
at a specific time. Correct.
Got it.
This is all part of your routine. Like just like a racehorse, man. Like if there is a bit of valuable information to have, that's which horse just took a shit 10 minutes before the race. I want to know that.
I think the only time I really prepare my body in that sort of fashion is when I'm getting ready to go on an airplane and I don't have an aisle seat. I will dehydrate my body because I hate having a middle or window seat and having to ask people to get up so that I can go to the bathroom. And I typically have to go to the bathroom like once an hour or once every 90 minutes on a flight.
Jeez, tiny tank.
I got a tiny tank and I like to get up and walk around.
I got a massive tank.
Like I'm a big bull.
I piss when I want to.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I guess I kind of do too because I refuse.
You've been on how many flights with me? How many times have you seen me use an airplane bathroom? 0 times because it's never happened.
Dude, I am the same way. Like I sit on our plane rides, on our team plane. I sit on the aisle or I sit on the window because I like the rest. No. I like the space. I'm not going anywhere. You kidding me? I'm not going anywhere. You could bring me all the vodka. I'm not going anywhere. Oh
my God. I feel like a packed sardine in there in the window seat. I need that aisle. I need that breathability. I need that ability to get up and go to the bathroom, stretch my legs, ask for an extra cup of water.
Do you rush to the emergency row, Jay? If you can?
Do I rush? Well, I mean,
are you an emergency
what is this,
row
Southwest guy? Boarding? No, I don't.
Well, hey, which I'm glad you brought that up.
I know it's over. I know they're changing it. I know. No free ads.
Wow, no free ads. Incredible. All I'm going to say is if I am on the same flight as any of you listeners at all into Burbank and you're in the back row, I fucking hate you now. Just know that. Just know that if I go to book my flight and that back row seat is taken, I hate you. All right? That's all I'm going to say. If you know, you know. Just know that I hate you. Moving on.
I mean, Joe pisses like 3 times a podcast.
Sometimes.
Because he's also got like an IV of fluid going into him, whatever. He has cut down on the water bottle usage.
Team tiny tank, dude.
Yeah, he would just be sipping water directly into the microphone, then go take a piss during an ad read. His bathroom apparently is right next to where the microphone is.
He's got a mic in the bathroom.
Yeah, he's just pissing into the microphone.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, it's fine, brother.
That's totally all right.
Yep. Whatever makes you happy. Anyways, a couple other deals, I guess, to at least note. Yeah. I thought Dallas was doing that to make fun of Joe. Is Joe making fun of himself? The Mets acquired Jesse Winker, which is very funny because of his relationship with their fan base. Famously confronted a fan that had a sign that said Jesse Winker is a bitch, or like you're a bitch.
Jesse Winker is a straight up bitch.
Is like, a straight up bitch.
And that context is important because it's one thing to just call a dude a bitch, like you bitch, and then it's another thing to be like, you're a straight up bitch. Like straight up. There's no like this is what the fucking business is. You're a straight up bitch.
Yeah.
And that just hits a little different. And
I
Jesse
agree.
was like, fuck, man. Really? Like, how about a ball for the side? Can we just not get this in circulation?
So I believe what happened was Jesse signed a baseball, but then he wrote something on the ball. What happened, Joe? I feel like you know all the weird shit that goes on.
The guy brought a sign that said Jesse Winker's a bitch, and then Jesse Winker
Straight up bitch.
Gave him the ball in exchange for the sign. That was the deal. Like he wrote a note on the ball, like, yo, can I get the bitch sign? So then he got the bitch sign.
Not the day of the game, though, because I know that they went on Chris Rose's podcast and he had them both on together. And then Jesse was like, I want the sign. He was like, I have it right here. So he didn't get the sign the day of the game. But they have a very interesting relationship. I don't want to call it tumultuous. I'll say it's an interesting relationship. And
it's a blossoming relationship.
Now he's going to be a cult hero there.
Yeah. Well, could this go Alec Boehm style? I mean, he hasn't been there long,
fucking
but
hate
like
this place, and I love this place.
Yeah. And dude, I can't tell you how many fucking t-shirts, how many I fucking hate this place t-shirts I saw in Philly. And they love the dude. The dude.
Yeah.
It's great.
Jesse Winker has a 129 OPS plus this year. That's pretty good.
What's his OPS plus on the Mets, though?
-100.
The worst of all time.
Yep. I mean, had one at bat and he struck out.
No one's had a worse OPS plus than that.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Some are saying small sample size.
Yeah.
I really like this pickup for the Mets, though. Like, proven righty masher, immediately becomes, I would guess, their second best outfield option after Brandon Nimmo, among that collection of other players, some of whom are healthy, some of whom are not right now. And, even in this down season power-wise, he's posted a 373 on base percentage. Anybody want to take a guess where a 373 on base percentage ranks among qualified batters in Major League Baseball? Sorry, in the NL. Well, you could do either one, I guess, but let's do the NL.
Fifth.
I was going to say fourth.
Wow. You guys are right on it. Sixth is the answer. He's behind only Ohtani, Freeman, Profar, Ozuna, and Harper in terms of getting on base this season. So that seems like a pretty nice ad. Like we were talking about, everybody's imperfect who's getting moved at this deadline in a lot of ways, but I think we know what Jesse Winker's skill set is, and we know how he's going to likely help the Mets. Nice pickup.
Yeah, sneaky little wink nugget ad right there for the Metropolitans.
Yeah, they need personalities in Queens. That's like their thing. They need players that they can relate to, gravitate towards. It's a whole thing.
Why?
Pedro
They got
Alonso?
it. They already got the Grimace guy, man. They got the fat McDonald's mascot. They got the Latin pop star.
Mm-hmm.
Don't they have the personality hires have been locked down for the Mets? They already got their viral sensations.
This isn't. I'm not going to hit the breaking news button, but Ty France is going to the Reds just now.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that tweet from Bob Nightengale, who, by the way,
Bobby, breaking news,
will be our guest on Wednesday.
That's right.
On Baseball is Dead, the day after the Major League Baseball trade deadline has concluded. Because everyone loved the Tim Kurkjian interview so much, they were like, man, didn't you guys say that you guys were going to have a guest on every single Wednesday? And we were like, you're right, we did say that. We did. You're not wrong. We did say that. We didn't do it. So Tim Kurkjian was the one that started the revolution of the Wednesday guest spot. So guest number 2 in the Wednesday chair will be none other than Bob Nightengale, the hero.
Yes.
He's a
Can't
hero.
wait. And I got to tell you, he's excited to do it.
Is he really?
He's excited to do it. He is. He's excited to do it. He's looking forward to it. Yeah. Yeah. I was, it was a very quick exchange, like back and forth. He got back to me right away. Yeah, he's excited to do it. I'm excited to have him. Because I want to ask him, Bobby, are you aware, or do you know, like you know, right? Like you have
you gotta know.
You know. But that's why, like, I've always liked, because
the balls to ask him that, Dallas.
Oh, for sure, because he's
it just seems like you've been a little like tiny balled lately.
What? I don't.
Not I didn't say historically. I didn't say like you're a lifelong like tiny ball haver, but like recently you've been.
I don't think that's
tiny balls. Yeah.
I don't think it's even close to being accurate.
No, I guess we'll find out on Wednesday if you have the balls to ask him that.
Well, we will. We'll find out.
All right. I'll be watching. I'll be listening.
These are heavy accusations. I didn't know anything about the ball situation for you, Dallas.
Yeah, well, neither did I. I mean, I don't know. Like this, it feels like it's a preemptive shrinking of the balls. Like there was no.
You're getting old.
There's no basis.
I mean, yeah.
There's no basis.
Joe, what do you think? What do you think? He's been little ball or big ball recently?
Dallas, man, it's hit or miss with this guy. Sometimes he comes in big balls, says what's on his mind. Sometimes he tiptoes around the issue. Then
yeah,
the fans notice. We notice.
There was a lot of tiptoeing around that security guard at.
Yeah,
at Globe Life.
Hey,
Or
you
actually,
know-
I guess at the ballpark in Arlington. But yeah.
Right.
false. Absolutely false.
That's fine. You know, I think we all respect your history. You know, we give you credit for what you used to be like
from
but,
the street.
We're gonna figure out.
Wow.
We're gonna figure out where we
Wow.
stand on Wednesday with Bob Nightengale.
Yeah.
I'm excited for
Yep.
this one. This is
I
one where it's kind of out of my I guess what I'm used to be doing. Like I like to talk to people that I've talked to before. I like to talk to people I have a relationship with. I mean, I've talked to Bob Nightengale. I told you we were roommates in Seattle for the All-Star game last year.
Yeah, you're gonna have to understand this isn't necessarily an interview of Bob Nightingale. This is Bob Nightingale joining us
chilling.
to discuss what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, we're chilling.
I can already sense it that it's gonna happen. You're gonna be like, all right, look, this maybe it's just that's gonna happen, and you're gonna fucking fire some random arrow. I'm anticipating.
At you?
No, not at me. And when I say fire an arrow, I mean like a question. Like you're gonna be like, all right. So I've got to ask you. I don't know what it is. I'm
a curious young man.
You are. You're very inquisitive.
I got questions and I want answers. You know,
That's fair. You know what? I've got questions. And I want answers. Well, first of all, is there any more moves that we need to touch on before I ask my questions?
Michael Lorenzen went to the Royals today. That was the only other one.
I mean, to me, that's interesting less for who Michael Lorenzen is and more
Royals
because of what it says about, like kind of the Royals and their pitching situation, which is that primarily Lugo and Reagans are or have already surpassed their career highs in innings. If this team wants to go anywhere, they will zoom past those numbers. Maybe he can soak up Lorenzen, can soak up some innings over the course of the final 2 months of the season. I don't anticipate him playing much of a role as it relates to anything high leverage for them if they were to make the postseason, but they definitely need to concern themselves with getting there in the first place. And, for what it is, I think it's fine.
That's
Yeah, I
fine.
mean,
that's how I feel about it.
It's same thing. Especially just considering where the Royals are at in this race, and understanding that the two horses right now, a couple of guys that have done a lot of dirt for you, are in that point in their innings limit. Well, not limit, but just in what they've accumulated thus far and what that's going to mean going down the stretch.
Any concern about the FIP being almost a run and a half higher than the ERA?
For Lorenzen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have huge concerns about it. I don't think he's very good.
Okay, so well, here, like just to kind of reel that in a bit, he is going to the Big K. He's leaving the Great American Small Park, and he is going to the Big K. Like, so maybe that helps.
I didn't know he was on the Reds.
Yeah, he's on the Rangers.
Or fucking what? Yeah, I had him on the Reds in my brain. I was thinking
He used to be on the
2
Reds,
years ago.
so-
Bad
so-
years on the Reds.
Well, he's still leaving a ballpark in Arlington that is offensive driven, as opposed to going
Not the
Yes.
new one. No.
more so than Kauffman Stadium.
The ballpark in Arlington was definitely a launching pad, but Globe Life with the roof and all that jazz, not so much.
Than Kauffman Stadium.
I mean, I guess we can pull up ballpark numbers if you want, but I don't know that Globe Life is notorious for being a launching pad the way that.
No,
ballpark
what
in
I'm saying,
Arlington.
the more expansive area, the more expansive territory, the bigger ballpark.
Kauffman
That's what
Stadium
I'm saying.
has the second most square footage, fair territory of any ballpark in baseball. The only one with more is Coors.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was where I was going with that.
That makes sense.
I got a move that we haven't discussed.
What is it?
Carlos Estevez to the Phillies. Like
yeah.
I know we touched on Dombrowski and his approach specifically at the beginning, but we didn't really touch on this move specifically. I just admire it because of everything you guys said about Dombrowski, which is that the Phillies had what we'll call a need in the bullpen, or at least they wanted another option. They already have several good relievers, but they wanted another one. And, he went out and got a guy that you can make a credible case is the best reliever that will get dealt at the trade deadline. or certainly one of the top 2 or 3. So I like the mentality. I like that, as we said, the Phillies are going for it. And, it may be that their deadline ends up being Estevez and Hayes. And I'm sure some fans will be mildly disappointed with that, but at least they shopped at the top of the aisle as far as relief pitching went. So I thought that was good. And this is already a Phillies bullpen that was very good. Like before the deal, they were 5th in FWAR, 3rd in strikeout rate, and 8th in walk rate among major league bullpens. So it's not like this bullpen sucked and needs Estevez to be the only answer. They have several other good relief pitchers, Hoffman, Alvarado, etc. But he just, he obviously adds to it with the season that he's had for the Angels. So I did like that move too.
You're leaving out the All-Star Matt Strahm?
That's what I was literally about to say.
Jeez.
Well, I said etc. I believe, didn't I?
But it's not really. He's not one of those guys.
He's not the etc. He would probably be the starting point.
I don't know. I think it would be. We could certainly debate whether he was a good use of an all-star spot or whether he was even better than Jeff Hoffman. But that's probably for a separate podcast. Maybe we'll do that on our Phillies only relief pitcher podcast.
Wow, I think Strahm might be the best reliever in the league.
Whoa! Should do a TikTok on that.
By far.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. You're crazy. You crazy.
Jake Diekman just got DFA'd.
Oh,
you motherfucker.
That sucks.
Yeah, we like
never want to wish a DFAing on anyone.
No. Well, let me ask you guys this. I took the liberty of taking a look at how the first, 50, 55, 56 games of the season went, where teams were at in the standings at that point, and then obviously where we're at now. Second half well underway. But the next 50 to 55, 56 games or so, because that's roughly what's left at this point, right? So obviously with the deadline getting ready to end tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I want to get your guys' thoughts on where we think things could be headed. So from March 27th, and I just threw that date out there because that's when I felt like teams had not played games yet, to May 28th. So really anywhere from 51 to 56 games for your team. The AL East looked like this. The Yankees were in first, 37-19. The O's, 34-19. The Red Sox, 28-27. The Jays, 26-29. Or excuse me, the Rays, 26-29. And the Jays, 25-29. We can go division by division just real quickly, or I can just kind of give you the league and how it looked. The AL Central had Cleveland 37-18, Kansas City behind them at 34-22, Minnesota at 30-24, Detroit 26-27, and the White Sox were 15-41. Not great for the White Sox. And in the AL West, the Seattle Mariners, you remember, got off to a decent start, 30-26 leaders in that division. The Rangers 26-29, dealing with a whole host of injuries. The Houston Astros, not great, 24-31, just one game ahead of the Oakland A's at 23-33, and the Halos pulling up the end at 21-33. So that's what the American League looked like at that point in time. How it sits right now, Boston, from May 28th to today, has put together a 28-22 record. Tampa Bay, 28-24. The O's, 28-25. The Jays, 25-27. And the Yankees, 25-27 as well. In the Central, the Minnesota Twins, Rocco Baldelli's Twinkies, 29-22. The Fighting Stephen Votes coming in at 27-24. AJ Hinch has the Tigres at 26-28. Kansas City 26-28. And the White Sox still absolutely atrocious at 12-41. And in the West, that's right, the Houston Astros. What does that surge look like? Well, they're 31-20. Seattle Mariners 27-25. Rangers 26-26. Dead even. Halos just a game under that at 26-27. And the Athletics, a little bit of a struggle right now, 22-31, though they came out of the gate in the second half hot. So that's what the American League looks like today through that second chunk of 50 to 55 games or so. So with that being said, and with the deals that we know that have been made, or the moves that have been made, the moves have not been made, what do we think about the races? What do we think about the division? What do we think about wild card potential for some of these clubs based on what we have seen now? Like the Mariners, where they have come from at 30-26 through that first portion, and now where they set as it stands now, not only in the division, but just 2 games over that 500 mark through this second stretch. And with the addition of Randy Arozarena, does that help their odds? Is this who we thought the Seattle Mariners were going to be? And now that we have
offensively,
not this bad, right?
No. They've never been known for their offense, but it's bad.
I'm trying not to get caught up too much in the way we got here with the AL West, and just trying to open my eyes and say, okay, 105, 107 games into the season, what does the picture look like? Like the Astros being 5 games over and the Mariners being 5 games over, and percentage points behind them. Like that, I think that makes sense. And the Rangers being 4.5 back. Like I do think a lot of the division pictures have ended up shaking out in a way that intuitively makes a lot of sense. Even if like the path to get there hasn't always been, kind of straightforward. Like the Guards only have a 4.5 game lead in the AL Central. And I think that, they're overwhelmingly likely to make the playoffs. But I still think that's going to be a real fight for the division. Like Fangraphs has that as basically a 50-40 deal between the Guardians and the Twins right now to win the AL Central. So I think there's, I'm very excited about the division races specifically in the AL, because I think we have a real chance at getting 3 division races, and each of them featuring obviously at least 2, but potentially 3 teams per division, which would be, rare or rare in recent baseball history in the AL.
So you got the Red Sox kind of making a little noise, or enough noise, Jay, to make that interesting?
Yeah, I think they should still be adding to the team. I know they picked up Paxton, and one of the deals we haven't talked about.
I meant for the division. Sorry, not. Yeah,
I think they're going to be I think they're going to be competitive for the division. I ultimately don't think they're going to win it. It's statistically incredibly unlikely for a team 6.5 games back to like closing the gap on one of those teams. That's fine. Closing them on both of those teams. That's why their percentages are the way that they are. But I think they're fully in the obviously in the playoff picture. And I think, if you're 6 back, 5 back, 4 back, something like that, you're still within striking distance as far as the division goes in a 3 or 4 game series sport.
The Red Sox and Mariners are separated by a half game, and the Mariners have a 15.5% better chance of making the playoffs than the Red Sox. They're separated by a half game entering play today.
Well, and that's just access to the potential of winning the division.
The division, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no smaller, between the AL West, actually, what's the Central look like? Yeah, I guess things have changed, because I was thinking about this a few days ago. There was no smaller division lead than in the AL West, and that has now shrunk to 12.5 games. The Orioles, between first and last place, excuse me, that was the detail there. Between first and last place. So in the AL East, there's 13 games that separate the Orioles and the Blue Jays from first to last place. In the West, it's the Houston Astros and the Athletics separated by 12.5 games, first to last place. And then in the NL Central, it's 10 games between the Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers.
I think the 2 leagues are going to present a nice contrast over the final 2 months, where I think the most compelling stuff going on in the NL is the wild card race. For all the good and bad reasons that we've outlined plenty of times. Whereas in the AL, I do think while we're obviously going to have wild card races, as I said before, I really think the division races are what could be, kind of the highlights of that. So that's kind of an interesting contrast between the 2 leagues and what's going to be worth tracking and whatnot. So I am looking forward to that.
Well, look, I mean, if we're considering the Washington Nationals a part of this wild card race right now
No.
at 6.5,
We're not. Nope.
No. So are we cutting it at Cincinnati at 5? Like, what's the limit?
I would go as far as to cut. I mean, realistically, I think we can cut it before Cincinnati. I don't think Cincinnati,
so the Giants
to me,
at 3.5.
Yeah, and like I think we are going to get some separation there because I think a lot of these teams. Now, any team could kind of go ass backwards into one of these wild card spots. I realize that, but like,
well, because we haven't gotten. Jay. Do you want me to? Let's go over the NL. If we're going to get into the NL, I kind of wanted to highlight what the NL had looked like because things look a little different in the National League. I think in those first 50 to 55 games in this second chunk that we're talking about here. But my point is we have been talking for a long period of time now that this National League wild card situation is interesting because of the amount of teams that are in that. And I think for a long time, it was probably right around 5 games that were separating or just separating 10 teams or so. And that's the reason that I brought up the American League wild card now is because we're talking about getting into a similar situation where the Toronto Blue Jays at 7.5 out, are they still they're not a threat or they still even in the picture?
Toronto Blue Jays suck. They suck.
I'm aware.
Well, and they're also like selling pieces. Like I think 7.5 games back with 2 months left to play, where you have to jump over 5 teams just to get into the last wild card spot is not a realistic contender for anything. Like the Rangers to me are right on that line. Tigers, Rays. Like I know the Rays are selling, and as Jared outlined, are still better than a lot of these other teams record wise. But like I think a lot of these teams post deadline are going to reveal themselves to be not very good teams anymore.
Sure. So if you have, that was my whole point, is if you have the Texas Rangers on that line, then they're 6 games out. The Nats are 6.5 games out. So, and if the caveat.
Okay, but one of those teams is the defending champion who's getting like half of a rotation back, and the other team is a team that's telling you they are selling pieces.
Well, that's where I was going with this. That was the next question with the Texas Rangers is they're getting guys back. They are what they have on the horizon is very different than what some of these other teams have. So that was all part, and that was why I was going to go to the National League and what that whole picture looked like. And I'll do that now. So over the first 50, 55 games or so in the NL East, the Phillies 38-18, the Braves 31-21, the Nats were 24-29, the Mets were 22-32, the Marlins 19-37. How it's gone since in the NL East, the Mets are 33-20, the Phillies 27-23, the Braves 26-27. The Nats 25-29, and the Marlins 20-31. So things looking about the same for the Washington Nationals. So they're playing about the same brand of baseball, give or take, adding a guy, losing a guy health-wise. It's pretty much what you're going to get. The Braves, obviously a regression in production. We can understand why. The New York Mets, nobody has a better winning percentage during that stretch than the New York Mets. Nobody had turned around it more than the New York Mets, 33-20. In the Central, the Milwaukee Brewers, 29-23. The Buccos, 28-23. Cardinals, 29-24. The Reds, 26-25. And the Cubs, 24-29. And in the West, Dodgers, 30-22. D-backs, 30-23. Padres, 28-23. The Giants, 25-28, and the Rockies, 19-35. And again, that is since May 28th through today. So with that being said, what about the National League do we find interesting? Is there anything that we learned from the first set of games, 50 or so, through this second set that has told us or given us any sort of definitive answers about the standings or the potential wild card race? This is where, Jay, the Nats at 6.5 games, the question comes up, are they a part of that picture? Because they played the same brand of baseball, and as you said, they're not going to be in the market to be acquiring people. So what's happening above them, does this impact them? Does this put them in that conversation?
I mean, I already shared my opinion. The Nats are not part of the conversation for me. So
I agree with Jay. Hey,
just,
the Nats are cooked, dude. I mean, they had to I feel like they overachieved to even get into in the first 55 games that they were better than the Mets and even the Marlins. Again, maybe not the Marlins. Marlins suck, but they overachieved to get there, and they have a lot of good, exciting young players that makes you think the Nats could be good in the future. But realistically, like, it would be dumb for the Nats to like try to buy people because they're 6.5 games back.
Yeah,
and they're already selling people.
They're 8 games under 500. Like, at some point, we have to draw the line.
Well, and that's what I'm trying
Joey
to
Gallo
establish.
gets hot though.
I mean, I think the Nationals can absolutely look at this season as a win on the major league roster. Like, I'm not trying to be snarky about the Nationals. I think, to Joey's point, there's a lot going on here that's positive from is this team going to be relevant in the near future perspective from some tentpole guys. But it's honestly, I shouldn't say bad. I think it is closer to, I think they will play closer to the level of the Marlins over the remainder of the season than they will to the teams that are serious wild card contenders. I just don't think the Nationals are going to be worse. The teams ahead of them are going to be getting better, presumably, or at least some of them. Cardinals, D-backs, Mets, Padres have all improved themselves to some degree, or are in talks to do so. In the case of the Cardinals, but yeah, I think the line is drawn there, and I don't think the Reds are real serious threats either. It sounds like they're entertaining offers for some of their rotation and bullpen pieces, and I know what their run differential is. I know it's better than the Cardinals by 70, 80 something runs. But at some point, what the front office is telegraphing is what I think we can view the team as moving forward to a degree. And that's the case with the Reds too. So.
Yeah, because both those teams set at 5 out. And again, the reason I started with the Nats, 6.5, and it's because the National League has been the conversation point about such a deep wild card pool. And we're shrinking that. That's what this conversation is doing, is we're shrinking that now to the Giants at 3.5 out. Because we're not confident, right? If I'm listening to what you guys are saying, we're not confident that the Cubs or the Reds are going to be making any sort of noise worth listening to. So then that puts us at a 3.5 game line, and that gives us the San Francisco Giants and the only other teams ahead of them in the Pirates and the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks as a part of this National League wild card picture moving forward. So
yeah,
now,
I mean, if you want to cast the widest net possible, I would be willing to entertain the idea that the Cubs are still part of the picture, because what they have that the Reds do not possess is a rotation that can legitimately run off 4 quality starts in 5 outings, or 4 high-end starts in 5 outings. They just got Paredes, as we've talking about. So in theory, they should be a better team offensively than they have been to this point, even if marginally so. So like, if you wanted to sell me on that, then that's fine. But you're also talking about 2 teams that are behaving in very different ways between the Cubs and the Reds as well. And I think that matters.
So from there, and this is why we're doing this, it's the Giants, the Pirates, and the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks who are a part of deadline day, a part of the deadline picture in terms of who's going to be acquiring talent. Do any of those teams feel like a team that is going to be in the market for any talent that can help move them forward? Or are these all teams who are going to kind of be standing idly by? Because remember, it's the Giants at 3.5 games out who have arguably the most valuable piece that could move if the rumor mill has any sort of integrity to it. And there's no way you can tell me that moving Blake Snell doesn't alter their outlook on getting into the wild card picture.
Have you seen the Pirates in any deal or linked to anybody?
No.
They traded Gilberto Celestino to the Cubs. Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah,
they're 2 games out. I haven't seen their name anywhere.
Nothing.
Yeah, they're not really in the win now mode. The Pirates. And they're scared about Skeens. They don't even want to cut to get to the playoffs.
They don't even want to make the playoffs because they got two dudes on that are rookies that are on innings limits.
I mean,
how tough is that?
This has been, to Dallas's original point, this has been a quote-unquote deep pool of NL teams, and we've discussed that a lot of that is just like a lot of mediocrity. And what this could really come down to, it's a little reductive, but it could come down to just the teams that want to win and make the playoffs. Like
that's what this whole that's what this whole thing is about, Jay.
The Cardinals, D-backs, and Mets, and Padres for that matter, have Braves will put aside because that's obvious. But like those four teams have made it clear we want to be in try to win baseball mode in 2024, and everybody below that has either not made that clear or underperformed with a roster that was supposed to do that to a degree where it makes it difficult now in the case of the Cubs and Giants who were trying to win in the present. But like your guys' point, I haven't heard a single word about the Pirates making improvements for this season. And I actually wonder, to Joey's point, like maybe it's a little tongue in cheek, but like if you're a Pirates fan, do you really even want the team to spend significant future assets in a seller's market right now when Jared Jones is not currently pitching, right? Like, what are we getting out of him for the rest of the season? Probably going to be pretty cautious there. The whole scheme stuff that we've talked about, like, what does a playoff version of the Pirates look like? I don't know. Like, I hate not pushing to win, but in the case of the Pirates, I almost could see a justification where, given what the team looks like and the growth potential for next season, like, I just do wonder whether you're better off taking your chips and trying in 25.
Well, this is why it hurts, is because it's do we win now? I don't know if we can win now. Are we early? Probably a little early, but it's tough because you haven't been early often, and you'd like to think that you can capitalize on being early and prop that window open a little longer, maybe even make it a little wider for God knows how long. But that's the fucking dagger right now, Jay Hay, is that's really not even being entertained. It's not even a conversation. Well, yeah, and look, no, it's tough with the pitching, the way it's set up and what you have to be cautious of. It's also, like I said, it's tough because you haven't had the opportunity to feel like you can be competitive and it feels like it's there. Do you have the moves? I mean, I wanted to ask you guys, I don't know if you have thought about it, but players, or is there a player out there that would be a needle mover for any team to acquire? And I guess outside of starting pitching, is there a player? Because I think you could take any starting pitcher available and plug him into any rotation that's trying to win, and that instantly gives them a better shot. Is there a position player that, or is there a hitter, an offensive piece that's available that has that same sort of value wherever you put this dude?
I think Joe's right. It's Vladdy, but I feel like there hasn't been any
Why
smoke
is it
there.
There hasn't, but I think that's because of how Toronto wants to move forward. Why is it Brent Rooker and nobody's saying it?
Because you guys have said you don't want to move him either.
It's not about not wanting to move him. It's just about understanding. I don't know about overvaluing Jared. And you know what? That's a great point. And here's how I look at this. If I'm listening to things that have been said about the Oakland Athletics, and I'm listening to decision makers and what they're saying, we're being told that as soon as next season, the Oakland A's payroll could start to ramp up in expectation of a new ballpark and having a roster to move into that new ballpark. And if that's the case, well, then you got to believe that Brent Rooker's a part of that equation, especially with how things have gone for him in the second half, the month of July, this season in general. However you want to look at it. If you're talking about extending the payroll and Brent Rooker is who he is and has the controllability that he has, and then you can pay, well, then he's got to be a part of that. But that's why the conversation, or maybe that's why the conversation, Jared, is what it is. And they're saying, you're going to have to come correct with Brent Rooker because we're not willing to just start selling guys off anymore. That's not what we're going to be doing. So maybe there's a silver lining here for A's fans at the trade deadline where when you don't have anybody leave, maybe that's signaling the start of a shift in the landscape. And I'm not telling you to get on board at all. That's not what I'm telling you. Not at all. I'm telling you that at a period in time in the season where we typically brace ourselves for impact because we know what that asteroid looks like, we see that asteroid coming long before other teams see that asteroid coming into their universe. So we know what it feels like when that asteroid hits. So maybe if that asteroid flies by us this time, just maybe, we can start to look at the calendar a little differently.
Why are we not talking about Lou Bob?
Feels like the reporting on him and the White Sox seriousness on moving him has cooled a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is this a baseball version of a franchise tag?
I mean, I don't know. I'm torn on Robert, but like as it relates to Rooker, I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth a little bit because obviously me, among others, have been critical of like the revolving door that is the Oakland Athletics Major League Baseball team. But like at the same time, while I can appreciate almost holding on to your best offensive player for on-field and sentimental like community building reasons, I also feel like this is possibly the wrong time in the franchise's life cycle to be drawing that sort of line in the sand on this guy. Brent Rooker is damn near 30 years old. And that doesn't mean that his baseball life is over. I'm not painting a doomsday picture for his medium term or anything crazy like that. But and I'm not saying you, but like what is it about the rest of this major league roster or the people that are about to populate the roster from the high minors? What is it about it that you think makes this team a near term ready to contend for a fringe wild card spot type of team that Brent Rooker would fit in as a 30-year-old, mostly DH type of player? Like I get it. Like at some point you have to stop selling everyone. Particularly when you've made comments to the effect of trying to raise payroll in anticipation of a move. But this team is nowhere close, realistically, to serious contention or really even serious fringe contention, in my opinion. And so what are you accomplishing by holding on to this guy who is very talented, but also limited in some pretty key ways for the life cycle of this team?
Well, see, and Jay, hey, that's always been the question for people around the organization, people who understand what's going on, is where does that fit? Because that's the response to the statement or to the idea of payroll ramping up. Okay, well, if that's the case, then here's your best offensive player. What does the future look like with him? And the response has been, well, we're not just going to be moving anybody. And so if that's the case, then can you answer that question? Okay, well, then is Brent Rooker a part of that equation? And if so, what does that look like? And that's why I'm asking that question. So if the asteroid hits, then we know that Brent Rooker was not a part of that equation. But if the asteroid does not hit, it's fair to ask, is Brent Rooker a part of that equation? Whether or not we're valuing him at where he's at, which is essentially at the point in a guy's career where they start to round third productivity-wise, right?
I literally, after all we just said, just got a text message that said trade going down with the Pirates.
Wait. In which direction?
Well, that's what I said. I said Sox, question mark? feel like the only reason why this person would be telling me that is because it was a trade involving the Red Sox.
Yeah. I was going to say, that sounds like the Pirates going in a different... That doesn't sound like a buying trade necessarily.
I bet it's Rowdy Tellez.
I was just looking. I basically cut it at the Reds because the team above the Reds is the Cubs. So I filtered Reds, Blue Jays, Nationals, Angels, A's, Marlins, Rockies, White Sox as far as teams that we know are selling. And when you look at some of the offensive options, I mean, Brent Rooker is number one. It's Vladdy, who maybe we are to believe they're going to hang on to Vladdy. Ellie De La Cruz is going nowhere. Tovar is awesome, but also going nowhere. Winker was already traded. Abrams is not going anywhere. McMahon, we were told, is not going anywhere. Indy is an interesting name, but it's like, now you're in the 263, 767 OPS range already. You're on the 10th name on the OPS list out of those teams, and we're already talking mid-7 OPS. So to Dallas's question, like, is there an impact bat that could be on the move? Really, no. Unless something unforeseen happens.
Well, no, hold on. So if Brent Rooker, if the asteroid hits, then Brent Rooker's got to go. And let's play the J-Hay simulation where he's not a part of the future. Are you telling me that as far as the month of July goes, you're not into the guy who is tied for fourth in extra base hits, who has more homers?
If I like Brent Rooker, yes, I'm
more homers
this is all
than
under the
anybody.
Pretense that he's not being moved. Of course, he would be an impact bat for somebody.
Yeah, well, I asked if there was a player who would have the same sort of impact that a pitcher might have, being able to plug in, ready to go. He makes you better. So now I'm saying, where does Brent Rooker land? Let's get Brent Rooker off the rock before the asteroid hits. Where does Brent Rooker go?
I mean, it's a cop out a little bit, but he just fits in a lot of different places.
No, he does. He absolutely does. And
even with the DH stuff that I said earlier, like now with that being in both leagues, like the guy is a top 15 bat in Major League Baseball by most traditional and advanced statistics that measure offense. So that player fits on basically every team. Like, you make room for a guy who's that productive. So yes, if he's available, hypothetically, like, I think, almost we're talking about 16 or so teams, 17 teams that are legitimate contenders for these spots. He probably fits on a dozen of those teams really well, nice and cleanly.
Yeah. So every team could use him. There's not a lot of bats on the market right now. He's having a career year at 29, and he plays for the fucking Oakland Athletics. Like, why is he not traded already?
Simply put, and it's fair to put it as simple as that. And that's where my question goes back to, and this is to just get A's fans' attention, is, all right, well, this has got to signify one of the two. It's got to be about one of the two. We're either moving forward or it's the same old thing. But I think Brent Rooker is an ideal candidate to help pose that question for Athletics fans. Is what is it? This is an ideal candidate for us to move and try to bolster if that's the case, because we watched what happened with Matt Chapman. We watched what happened with Matt Olson. We watched what happened with Sean Manaea and Chris Bassett. We saw the return on each and every one of those players. And you're telling me right now that Brent Rooker having a career year, which absolutely starts to tickle anybody who's interested in getting further into October, that gets their attention. You're telling me that you're not going to be hit with a prospect package of any sort that makes sense?
I'm more focused on who the Red Sox are about to get from the Pirates.
I got a question for you since we walked into the Red Sox. If the Red Sox deadline, let's say this Pirates thing is nonsense. If the Red Sox deadline is James Paxton and Danny Jansen, what are you grading that?
F.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
F. Okay.
Well, what if Aroldis Chapman comes over?
No, thank you.
Makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense, he says.
People love to trade for Chapman at the deadline, man. This guy loves to pitch in the World Series, doesn't he?
They do.
Doesn't he?
He loves it, man. He's pitched in big markets before.
One thing I do want to talk about is, and we just touched on it briefly, Jay, but the Garrett Crochet situation. Having a player come out and say something like that, and it's all kind of interesting for a lot of different reasons. But I want to hear from a fan perspective of a team who could use a guy like Garrett Crochet based on what you know about him, and I can outline some things for you. How excited would you be to get a guy at this point in his career?
Oh, there it is. Jeff Passan. It doesn't look like it's anybody special.
Great. Quinn
Trade
Priester.
news. Boston Red Sox and Pittsburgh Pirates are finalizing a deal that will send right-handed starter Quinn Priester to Boston. An infield at Nick York to Pittsburgh? The fuck?
Damn.
Yorkie. Welcome to the boat, Yorkie.
Wow, you got that. You got that first here on Baseball is Dead, even though it was fucking. I love how like people will like text me the tweet like I don't fucking know. Yeah, I saw it. I got to read up on Quinn Priester. That name was not in my lexicon. I'll be honest.
Congratulations.
Thanks. What do you guys got on Quinn Priester, huh?
Pick him, Priester.
He's got a 5 ERA. Oh, this guy's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got a 4.81 FIP, so you got something to work with there.
Yep. The whip is 145. The hits per 9 is 10.5. Oh, I love it.
He's been pitching out of the pen.
31 strikeouts. So he doesn't strike anybody out.
He's got youth on his side.
6.2 strikeouts per 9.
Yeah, he struck out more than a batter per inning at AAA this year, though. 3.21 ERA and 7 starts at old Indianapolis.
He's got 94 2/3 innings in the big leagues, 110 hits, a 5.82 FIP, a 1.585 whip, 10.5 strikeouts per 9, 1.8 home runs per 9, 3.8 walks per 9, and 6.4 strikeouts per 9. None of that is good.
Maybe he's a project, Jared.
Maybe Craig Breslow is like his godfather or something.
I mean, unequivocally, he is a project.
Mm-hmm.
None of that is good.
6'3", 210 though. He's got that nice workable build. Can do something with it.
I don't know what we can do with it.
Won't be a free agent for like another half decade.
He's 23. Former first rounder. Okay.
But can I answer Dallas's question really fast?
Sure.
My answer to the Garrett Crochet question is that I am not interested in acquiring Garrett Crochet. If I am a Dodgers type of big game hunter, maybe because you can slap that contract on there and it's like it doesn't even fucking matter for the Dodgers. But in most other scenarios, while I admire what Garrett Crochet is doing in a lot of ways, because if you are going to be put in a position to risk your health, kind of, objectively speaking, then looking for upfront compensation, I think is in some ways new territory, but in some ways kind of just like a basic follow-up question that just hasn't been asked enough. But I don't love the combination of never been here before innings wise, hasn't been particularly good or used in a traditional way for about a full month now, and has a very recent significant injury history and very little track record of being a great starter outside of this season. I understand that that's how it works sometimes for pitchers and pitching prospects, but there are enough like yellow orangish flags for me where if the price really is like you are paying us for a certified bona fide ace, I think I'm good. I think I'd rather shop at the Jack Flaherty market.
Yeah, and that's the question. Like I have never, I mean, because the immediate, my brain, as many others did, my brain immediately went to CC. Immediately went to CC and thought to myself, this is the difference between mentalities, I think, in this day and age.
Yeah.
With the money. What do you got?
No, you're not wrong. And like, obviously we're all like, I think we're all on the same page that Jared and I were actually talking about it in Arizona or in Texas, I believe, CC's Brewers run and the Cy Young voting that season. I'm total respect. But like, I also think of somebody like Matt Harvey, where yes, it worked out for CC Sabathia because he made it through that sacrifice and got a damn near record-setting contract at the end of it. It didn't work out for Matt Harvey, and it hasn't worked out for lots of different other people that don't get lionized. So like, I'm just like,
but did CC hold on? That's almost like acting like CC knew something that these other guys didn't.
No. He didn't know that he was going to make it. Yeah, well, but I mean, I feel like that kind of alludes to that. Like, well, CC got away with it. It's like, well, no, CC took the ball and CC put himself at risk. But
much
so did
like
Harvey.
These other guys have the opportunity to do.
But that's my point. Is Harvey laid it on
CC and Harvey in the same world, in the same realm in that regard?
Are we rewriting what Matt Harvey did in the 2015 World Series and during that entire postseason run? Because that guy absolutely laid it on the fucking line for the Mets during that postseason run.
To get to the postseason, those are very different things. What CC did was to get to. Like, we're not even there. Okay, we're here. Now it's time to go. Great. Hi, I'm CC. This is Milwaukee. Looks great here. I'll take the ball every 4 days to the fucking postseason. Those are completely different.
They're not different. They're not, though, because it's two people laying their bodies on the line for the benefit of the team. And it worked out for one of them because he stayed healthy and got the big contract. And it definitely didn't work out for the other guy because he got hurt right after that and didn't get the big contract.
You're talking about Matt Harvey's performance at what point in time in the season, Jay?
In the postseason? Well, it was exceeding his previous workload. That's the point. He blew past his previous workload.
That's a caveat that you just
injected.
How
are these things? No. These things are much closer to the same thing than they are vastly different. We're talking about people who sacrificed for the benefit of the team, and one of them got paid and one of them didn't.
The point is Matt Harvey was doing it because he was willing to do it for what? For the championship that was in front of him and the opportunity to take the ring home. CC was doing it for the opportunity to get to the dance to win the championship.
That doesn't speak to a different mentality between these two people. It speaks to the same mentality, or maybe degrees.
Degrees different, absolutely, because CC has nothing in the bank. He's not guaranteed the postseason. He's taking the ball to get you there. Harvey was already there and is saying, fuck yeah, let's roll.
Talking about Ken Rosenthal just tweeted a 3-team trade in which the Cardinals would acquire Eric Fedde, the Dodgers would acquire Tommy Edman, and the White Sox would acquire prospects is close.
Yeah.
So that is something to chew on. I don't know what the fuck you guys are just talking about. It's a trade deadline show. We're arguing about CC Sabathia and Matt Harvey.
We're talking about mindsets and the difference between a guy willing to lay it on the line when he's already in the postseason and he's like, yeah, fuck it. If I blow out, I got a ring and I'm good to go.
To get to the postseason, he had to exceed his previous workload to get there too. It's not like he magically appeared in the postseason and was like, well, now I'm going to exceed my workload. All the starts in the regular season, all the starts in September also are part of that decision.
Did he do those on short rest, Jay?
Yeah, just move the goalpost after I've destroyed
the
this
goalpost
argument.
Was set. What are you talking about? The goalpost was already set. CC took the ball on short rest for a fucking month to get a team he had no commitment to into the postseason. Matt Harvey was willing to pitch beyond his limits to win a fucking World Series. Those are totally different. Jesus Christ.
Let us know, Reddit. Let us know.
What do I want to sell out for? A ring or to get there? Those are different mentalities. Oh, I'm already here?
It's done. Heyman just tweeted, Fedde going to the Cardinals in a 3-way deal with the Dodgers. That sounds like that's getting punched through. So, all right.
Eddie to the car.
I mean, he's probably their second best pitcher. That's a pretty significant ad.
Hey, fits into that veteran clubhouse, man. That veteran starting staff. If I was a young pitcher right now, I'd love to be going to the Cardinals and getting all that wisdom from those old stallions.
Oh.
I mean, he's one of the few starting pitchers that have been traded at this deadline that would likely start a postseason series for the team that just acquired him.
Yeah, Fedde's been under the radar all year. He's been a beast. And this is a guy who was freaking excommunicated from the league. They made his ass go to Korea. And he's come back and pitched good enough to go to the Cardinals. On a
Cool
shitty
story.
White Sox. It is a cool story.
It's like a completely different approach. It's awesome. A 5.41 in 454 and a third innings before he left, and then came back. And in 2024, he's got what, a 3.11, 21 starts.
Well, you know how everyone likes to troll Martin Maldonado for being like the worst hitter in baseball by a fuck ton, and like, how's this guy still in the major leagues? And I know he's not in the major leagues anymore. He's got a 3 OPS for like 6 years in a row, and and then the teams are like, oh, but he's such a good veteran presence. He calls the game so well. He gets the young pitchers under their wing, and then all the baseball people on Twitter are like, oh, dude, that does not work shit. He sucks. But if you look at it with the White Sox, I mean, Eric Fedde is having a career year all of a sudden at 31 years old. And then Crochet as well. I mean, these are two of the best pitchers in the league, which is wild to think that the White Sox, like the worst team almost ever in the past however many years, have
Jack
like
Flaherty
legitimately
trade to be expected soon. John Hammond just said.
Say that again?
Jack Flaherty trade should be expected soon.
Very curious on that one. Yo, to your point, though, Fedde's got a 1.71 ERA with Maldonado behind the dish.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the White Sox legitimately have two of the best starting pitchers in baseball this year, statistically. Crochet and Fedde, those aren't top 10 pitchers this year.
I mean, Crochet definitely has been. Fedde's probably borderline. Maybe top 10 in the AL, maybe.
That's why you get that veteran catcher. Makes the pitchers better. Then you trade them. The White Sox are looking great, man. I like this trade for the White Sox. I really do. I like the package they're getting in return. I know we haven't heard who they are yet, but it all goes back to Martin Maldonado.
All right. Anything else? I'm fucking starving. It's almost 2 p.m. here.
Go Skeens.
Good to go.
If anything major happens tomorrow before 6 p.m., I don't know what everyone's availability is. Maybe we can hop on for like a 15-minute bonus pod. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. But like if Scooble goes or Crochet goes, I'm down to hop on. I don't know what everyone else's availability is, but otherwise, we will have Bob Nightengale as our guest on Wednesday to unpack all the events of the trade deadline, all the in between. Like, I'm curious. I want to know about the shit that didn't happen. I want to know about stuff that was discussed that kind of like made it to the finish line but didn't quite get across. So all that on Wednesday, potentially a bonus pod on Tuesday, depending on availability of everybody else. Final thoughts, Dallas?
I really hope I get to see Brent Rooker when I go to the field on Friday.
I have a strong feeling that you will. I'm going to put the Stevie P guarantee on it.
Whoa,
that Brent
the Bob
Rooker
guarantee?
I'm going to put the Bob guarantee that Brent Rooker is not moved. I feel like some team is going to come in last minute with like a ridiculous package for I think one of Crochet, Skubal gets moved, not both. I don't know which one. I think one of the two, not both. But I think Brent Rooker stays put.
If Crochet moves, I am very interested to see what team like that. That's exciting. Crochet for me right now is the most exciting, just because of because of everything that he just said. Everything he just said.
That team's going to stand on business, Dallas. They're going to be like, you're going to fucking pitch in the postseason. You're not in a position to tell us to give you we just traded for you, dude.
And Jay, I don't want to bring up the Matt Harvey situation, but it kind of feels like
sit out and look your teammates in the eyes and tell, because I mean, it's not like it's a rental. Like he can ask for the extension, but you're still employed by us next year.
But
so you're gonna have to look those guys in the eyes and tell them, I didn't fucking want to.
And you're walking into that clubhouse going immediately. You walk into the clubhouse with this attached to you. Oh, so you're not taking the ball unless we're winning, and you're not taking the ball unless you get paid. So we're gonna see you. Is this how it's going to go? Is this how it's going to be? And it's almost like the hater situation in San Diego, right? You told me I was shitty anytime I threw more than one inning. Well, guess what? You got me for one inning. You better make it count.
Let me pose the question back to you then, as the former player, because to me, it feels like there's at least a slight difference between Crochet basically announcing / getting this out there before he's acquired by anybody else compared to him doing it afterwards. Like, oh, he's acquired by, the Dodgers, shows up in LA, is like, yo, actually, Friedman, man, like, I need to get paid to show up for the Dodgers. Like, to me, it's a little bit different. How I'd be curious how it would be perceived in the clubhouse, which is why I'm asking. But that he's announcing it before any team has pulled the trigger on acquiring him does feel like it's a little bit of a differentiating factor.
And Jay, this is why I genuinely would love to continue the conversation about our disagreement between Crochet and CC Sabathia, Matt Harvey and CC Sabathia, and what that means. And it's because there's a lot of nuance that goes into you and I just shouting back and forth who believes who had a better mentality. Stuff like that matters when you go into a clubhouse. And so if you're a Mets player who watched Matt Harvey take the ball, understanding what he was going through, you love that, right? Like, you go to bat for a dude like that. Like, absolutely, because we all know what that means. We all know that we're kind of running that risk. We all know that in the world of baseball, tomorrow has never been guaranteed for us. And that has been a problem. You said it earlier in the podcast. It's maybe just about a question not being asked enough. And there's a huge shift in how guys are being compensated and the value. And that conversation is swirling right now, my dude. And that's why it does matter. That's why this is the most interesting piece of all to me for so many different reasons. And it's because if a guy like that shows up into my clubhouse and we have a chance to get somewhere, but he's already said what he said, then I have to look at my front office and go, right, what's your move here? Because you know what you were bringing into this room, and you better have a game plan to either make him happy or get him on the fucking ship with us. And that's up to you. And as a veteran, I'll take care of that when he gets into the clubhouse and make sure that we are all on the same page. But goddamn, if the front office brings somebody like that in and hasn't done their due diligence to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward, that's going to create problems, because the manager's going to look down there and go, all right, you're going back out there for the 7th. You're going back out there for the 8th. And he might be going, buddy, I ain't going fucking anywhere but to the clubhouse because I ain't got paid yet.
Well, and also, like, I know we're on a tangent now, but it's tough to say, like, if you're a starting pitcher in that clubhouse and we all hear the complaints, either explicit or implied or just in the ether from starting pitchers about usage and compensation and what is the future of starting pitching, and our teams are like intentionally bringing down the value of pitchers and cutting their innings so that they don't have to really pay anybody in the long term, et cetera, et cetera. That, we've talked about the Rays and whatever, but like, it's tough for me to say a pitcher is seeing Garrett Crochet walk in and being, and this situation taking hold and being like, well, that guy's a pussy because he's not willing to pitch for me. But also, that guy in his own way is taking a stand for pitcher compensation moving forward, and in some ways may benefit you, whoever you are in the clubhouse, in a future date moving forward. So like it is a give and a take, but like to just say this guy won't take the ball and is thus not a badass, and that's not what you're saying, but like from this clubhouse perspective, it is more nuanced than that, because like the guy wants to get paid for being a starting pitcher before he puts his total ass on the line. And I do get that.
Sure.
I get it.
Sure. Yeah. And that's why it's really intriguing, because we've never had something like this happen before, where a guy who, and just to outline it again, because we didn't really go through it, but for Garrett Crochet, TJ in 2022 started this year with just 85 1/3 innings under his belt as a professional. Remember, this dude came from Tennessee and then went to the big leagues. There's no minor league time, no minor league tick for this guy. All right. And 114 innings so far. 54 1/3 innings in 2021 were the most that he's had in a season. He had 132 total innings over 3 seasons at Tennessee. So you can understand why Garrett Crochet is taking his stance, and you can understand why a team is looking heavily into whether or not they have a package that they could throw at him, because maybe somebody comes to him with one of those super short AAV, very weird looking escalator deals that says you make this amount of starts with this many innings, this sort of production, we can start to kick in some dough. Maybe that happens, and maybe somebody gets their man at the deadline.
It feels kind of like a Braves player, to be honest. I mean, they haven't been shy about signing injury-prone players recently. It worked out with Chris Sale, and like he doesn't have an insane amount of leverage since he hasn't really done this more than half a season. So if you can get him on like a 5-year deal for like $15 million a year, a little less, and he keeps this up, like you just freaking secured a really good starting pitcher for a long time. And that's like the Braves. Those are the deals the Braves keep trying to get. And they kind of need a pitcher right now with Ronaldo Lopez getting hurt.
And Joe, if that dude walks into the room, and Jay, if that dude walks into the room and has this sort of approach, he says, hey, I know you guys have heard the stuff about the contract and whatnot. I'm here to fucking win. All right? I'm here to fucking win. Fuck all the noise. I want to take the ball, and we're getting as deep as I possibly can into each and every ball game. So you guys in the bullpen who are used to pitching in the 5th and 6th, put your fucking feet up. You're not going to work today. You other fuckers, the bridge, the stopper, today's our day. If he walks in with that mentality and espouses that to the group, now Jay, even when he gets his ass kicked, those guys are like, hey, we know what this dude is sacrificing. We know what he's putting on the line for us, right? And regardless of how much sense that makes and the business aspect of that, I'm just talking about the vibe and the feel in the clubhouse. And when you have that going for you, at the most pivotal time with a new guy who ignites that in you, buddy, we went from willing to take a bullet for you to I'll hide the fucking body for you. What do you got? You tell me when and where. Like, that's the mentality.
Anyone else have final thoughts?
Great slate of games early this week. The matchups are really good.
Fuck yeah.
I got a final thought. Fuck the Mets. Their season's over. I mean, they thought they were so cool against the Braves on Friday and Saturday. Like the Braves were throwing out Little League freaking lineup with, no offense to Ramon Laureano, cost us the game. Mets are dancing in the streets. Now the Mets just lost. Their playoff chances went down 15% in 2 days because the big bad Braves limping in without a roster punch them in the mouth 2 games in a row. So I just want to reiterate that I don't like the Mets anymore.
Wow.
I started to like the Mets, but I just this weekend made it obvious that this Mets fan base, they haven't changed a bit. They're a little cocky. They think they're big dogs on campus because the McDonald's mascot's on their side. Unfortunately, you're back being the measly Mets. It was fun while it lasted.
Hope everybody heard that. Joey's the new anti-Mets guy on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Tough look, Joe.
All right. We'll be back on Wednesday. Hope your team gets the player you want. Hope your favorite team doesn't trade your favorite player. See you then. Bye.
Wow.